Parts of Europe are going dark. Europe is running short on electricity.
The average energy bill for households is more than £3,500.
I'm sure you've all heard of the chaos currently happening in Europe and the UK with relation to energy. Decades of bad policy decisions and Russia now weaponizing its oil and natural gases is resulting in one of Europe's worst energy dilemmas, and with winter approaching, the scenarios cannot be more grim. For months, Russia has periodically shut down gas supplies to its neighbouring European countries. Europe relies on Russia for 46% of its coal imports, 30% for its oil imports, and 40% for its natural gas imports. As you can see with the graph, ever since the Ukraine invasion began, European gas prices have skyrocketed. Of course, stopping supply to Europe will have devastating consequences on the 446 million inhabitants. Russia has a number of pipelines which feed Europe's gas and energy, from southeast Europe to the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, which feeds Germany and the neighbouring states with energy and gas. The Nord Stream 1 pipeline, which has been in operation for more than 10 years, stretching from Western Russia to Germany, is the largest natural gas pipeline from Russia to Europe. It is estimated to provide 40% of Europe's natural gas. Now, this pipeline has been just one of the many which have been shut down for days this year for so-called maintenance. These closures have had major impact on Europe. In July, when Russia announced its intention to restrict supply, within a day, it had pushed up the wholesale price of gas in Europe by 10%. Russia's move to halt gas supplies through the key Nord Stream pipeline is very concerning, further raising the prospect of a shortage of gas to heat homes and generate electricity. Vladimir Putin has repeatedly reduced flows to Europe this year, retaliation for sanctions imposed after his country's invasion of Ukraine. Although the UK imports very little gas from Russia, gas prices are set globally and are now approximately 450% higher than they were this time last year. The United Kingdom is facing a very grim winter. It even reported that it faces a serious humanitarian crisis in the coming months if the issues aren't resolved. Freezing gas and electricity prices over the next couple winters could cost the government over £1 billion. This is more than what they gave its citizens during the COVID pandemic. Currently, the average annual bill is around £1,971. This is 54% up from last year. However, the most concerning dilemma is that it's forecasted to shoot past £3,500. Another research firm states that the average household could be paying as much as £6,500 a year for natural gases. And the pubs in the UK are in serious danger of being wiped out. The bosses of companies owning over 20,000 pubs in the UK stated that many tenants are already giving notices because of the rise in energy bills. They were expecting energy costs to rise more than 5 times the normal amount. Unlike most households, pubs don't benefit from a cap on what suppliers can charge for gas and electricity. This means that they virtually face complete collapse without state intervention. For instance, a pub in the UK stated that the best energy quote for a year of energy was above £60,000. Another pub owner stated that her energy prices had jumped 5 times. By the beginning of October, she must renew her electricity contract, but the only price she can get is £118,000 a year, up from at most £27,000. The pub industry employs nearly 1 million people in the UK. Thousands of pubs face bankruptcy, which means hundreds of thousands of people have potential unemployment. In order to keep up with this form of hyperinflation, pubs would need to raise their prices from £5 a beer to 20 quid. This is not feasible, as a survey stated that more than 50% of the British public believe a beer at £5 is too expensive.
It costs a lot of money to run a pub through the winter. You've got to keep the beer cold and the customers warm. And this winter, it's going to cost a lot more.
Put simply, running the pubs at the moment on a day-to-day basis is not sustainable. Everything now is about what cash reserves you have. Can you survive this bite? And will you be there at the other end? Truth be told, a lot of pubs won't be.
While it looks very grim for pubs in the UK, the energy crisis is cascading throughout the economy. The Federation of Small Businesses has warned of the impact on everything from fish and chip shops to laundromats. The group estimated that electricity bills for small businesses had risen nearly 350% since 2021. Companies have been warned by the UK government officials that they will have to wait longer than households for help from its £150 billion energy package. Because of difficulty of launching a support system before November, the prospect of weeks of delays is increasingly worrying business leaders, since hundreds of thousands of companies reached the end of their fixed price energy contracts at the start of October. The soaring prices have made thousands of people protest the hikes. More than 100,000 people have pledged to cancel their direct debits for gas and electricity from October to protest against skyrocketing energy prices. Don't Pay UK, which launched in June this year, said its campaign had reached millions of people. In just a few weeks, over 100,000 of us from across the UK have come sign the petition to say we will refuse to be pushed into fuel poverty and we will no longer pay for the profits of energy companies, a citizen said. This graph shows that the UK is the worst hit by rising energy prices across Western Europe. The reason is that the UK's heavy reliance on gas to heat homes and produce electricity at a time when Russia's war in Ukraine has sent gas prices soaring. In addition, the UK has the least energy efficient homes in Western Europe. In addition, the UK has the biggest gap between the richest and poorest in energy costs as a proportion of income, as you can see with this graph. From beers to tomatoes, Europe's energy crisis is spilling over. A Belgian beer brewer is facing a major risk of stopping production for the first time in more than 100 years. From German tomatoes to Swedish bread, the gas squeeze is hitting all sectors. The reality is that there is not enough gas in Europe, said Ed Burkett, head of energy and climate at Onwood, a London-based think tank. If demand isn't reduced, then businesses will be forced off the grid, and in an extreme scenario, households could be forced off the grid too. This is not an uncommon practice. In 2021, Texas's grid went down during cold weather, leaving millions without power for days. And even California came very close to a major blackout earlier this month during an extreme heat wave. So exactly what countries in Europe rely on Russian gas? This graph shows that those countries in the amber to red colour heavily rely on Russian gas imports. Germany, Austria, Italy, Czech Republic and many more rely on Russia for more than 20% of their gas consumption. This is very concerning if a total halt to Russian energy continues into winter. Germany is a major European country which is suffering from the gas cut-offs. Electricity prices have risen a staggering 72% since 2020. Germany, Austria and other EU countries are now turning to coal, the oil-fired power stations, so more gas can be diverted into storage for heating homes during the winter. Europe has tried to reduce its reliance on Russian natural gas since the invasion of Ukraine in late February. Germany has managed to reduce Moscow's share of imports to 35% from 55% before the start of the war. What also hasn't helped the situation is the drying up of Germany's rivers. Less river water means less hydroelectric power generation and less capacity to ramp up nuclear operations. Europe's worsening crisis will cause its economies to contract in 2023, according to Amrita Sen, the Director of Research at Energy Aspects. She expects a decline of 1.4% in European GDP next year.
We think as a result of high gas prices, European GDP is going to decline by 1.4% next year, which is contrary to IMF's, to a lot of consensus numbers out there who are still expecting growth. But we do think the burden of high gas and oil prices will actually mean that we are going to see some steep contraction in the European economies next year.
Likewise, JP Morgan has stated that a severe recession for Europe by the end of this year is more than likely, as rising natural gas prices and higher interest rates spell trouble for the bloc. This energy crisis will have wide ramifications. The Finnish Economic Affairs Minister, Mika Lintilä, says it most accurately, that the current gas crisis has all the ingredients for this to be the energy industry's Lehman Brothers. Back in 2008, investment banks triggered a global financial and economic crisis by selling toxic home mortgages tied up in wild security constructs. This time, it is high gas and electricity prices that could trigger a systemic collapse.
Europe faces a winter filled with uncertainty and pain. This could very well be the catalyst and trigger for a larger systemic economic collapse.